After my father's funeral, my mother wasted no time before launching into her plans. I'm going to take all of Dad's $184,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me, haha. Please leave right now, she said, her words cutting sharply. I couldn't believe she'd say something so callous right after the funeral. She seemed utterly hopeless. But I had already prepared for this moment long before my father's passing. With a confident smile, I replied, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this. My name is Susan, and I'm 28 years old, still living in my parents' house." My father was the light in my life, always there for me despite his busy schedule. He ran a company but always made time for family dinners and my school events. Its kindness meant the world to me. My mother, on the other hand, was a different story. She never showed much affection, especially when I was young. Living with my paternal grandparents under the same roof didn't make things easier. My mother often vented her frustrations when my father or grandparents weren't around, directing her anger towards me. My grandmother, though kind on the surface, had her moments of cruelty, especially towards my mother. She would often make hurtful remarks, reflecting disappointment in not having a boy to carry on the family legacy. Despite my efforts to win my mother's approval through academic success and even winning swimming competitions, her criticism only grew worse. She'd remark about my looks, comparing me unfavorably to my father, whom she adored. My mother's beauty and past as a model seemed incongruous with her behavior. Marrying my father for his wealth didn't bring her the life of luxury she expected, especially with my grandparents in the picture. Things worsened after my grandparents passed away, leaving my mother unchecked. She squandered my father's money on parties, neglecting both me and the household chores. Meanwhile, my father was focused on rebuilding his company's stock value, leaving me feeling isolated and lonely. But despite it all, I had learned to navigate the deceitful world of adults like my mother from a young age. Now, with my father gone, I was prepared to stand up for myself and claim what was rightfully mine. But despite my resolve, I couldn't bring myself to confront my father about my mother's behavior. I understood how hard he was working and felt that saying more would only burden him further. My aspirations remained clear. I aimed to attend a prestigious university and eventually join and support my father's company. In my dreams, I even envisioned taking over the business someday. I had no desire to live off someone else's efforts like my mother, content with a life of ease without any personal contribution. So I dedicated myself to hard work, steadily advancing towards my goals. As my father's business stabilized, he was thrilled to hear about my ambitions to join him. He allowed me to intern at his company during my third year of university. The employees were patient and kind, teaching me the intricacies of the business. After graduation, I officially joined the company as a full-time employee. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mother remained distant. I found solace in my work, immersing myself in the challenges of the corporate world. Despite being more strict and commanding in the office, my father always showed me kindness and concern, switching effortlessly between the roles of boss and father. As the years passed, I continued to thrive in my role within the company. However, life took a sudden turn when my father suffered a severe leg injury in an accident. He required extensive caregiving, and I couldn't trust anyone but myself to provide it. Reluctantly, I returned home to care for him, setting aside my feelings towards my mother for the sake of my father's well-being. Despite my mother's hurtful words, I chose to brush them off. My focus remained on caring for my father while juggling responsibilities at the company. Even confined to a wheelchair, my father's mind remained sharp, and he continued to lead the company, giving instructions remotely and attending meetings only when absolutely necessary. During this time, my father expressed his gratitude and apologized for the trouble I was going through. "It's fine, Dad," I reassured him. "I still have so much to learn from you." As I cared for him, my father imparted invaluable lessons in management, seemingly aware of his declining health. When we eventually learned he had cancer with only a year left to live, I was devastated. Spending even more time with him became my priority, visiting him daily when he was hospitalized. As his condition worsened, my father made a heartfelt request to entrust the company to me. "I've taught you a lot, Susan," he said. "I trust you with the company. I'm counting on you for everything after I'm gone." I promised to fulfill his wish to protect both him and the legacy of the company. A week later, he passed away, surrounded by loved ones and company employees who had become like family. Notably absent was my mother, who hadn't visited him once during his illness. Her indifference appalled me, but I chose not to confront her at the funeral, knowing it would be futile. In the midst of my grief, one thought lingered. I would uphold my promise to my father, to safeguard the company he had worked so hard to build. And if my mother dared to shed crocodile tears, I wouldn't hesitate to put her in her place. Despite my mother's unchanged demeanor, she boldly pretended to mourn in front of my father's friends. It was evident, however, that her true feelings were far from sorrow. She was likely pleased by his demise. The allure of my father's substantial inheritance seemed to be her sole source of satisfaction in the wake of his passing. Immediately after the funeral, she wasted no time in approaching me with her demands. "I'm going to take all of Dad's $1,984,000 inheritance now that caregiving is over. You're useless to me, haha. Please leave right now," she declared. I couldn't believe she would be so brazen as to demand this immediately after the funeral. But I was already prepared for her audaciousness. With a smile plastered on my face, I calmly responded, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this." Her surprise was evident, but I remained unfazed as I packed only the essentials, ready to move out. "I'm going to sell all my stuff," I informed her. "You can do whatever you want with this house and the $1,984,000 inheritance. I don't need anything else. I'll live and enjoy life to the fullest." Her mocking laughter only fueled my determination as I ignored her and left soon after. A month later, she bombarded me with calls, questioning why I had left the house. Reluctantly, I answered, "What do you mean by this? Why do I have to leave the house?" she demanded. I couldn't resist teasing her a little. "Oh, that's because I inherited the house," I replied casually. "Dad left the house to me, not you. I sold it for about $1 billion. Her disbelief was palpable. "$1 billion? It's sold for that much," she exclaimed. But her shock didn't sway me. "Well, it doesn't matter," I assured her. "I have $1,984,000 inheritance." With that, I ended the call, content in my newfound independence and freedom from her manipulative grasp. My mother's confusion about the inheritance was swiftly met with a reality check. "Of course you haven't received $1,984,000 yet. You're a stranger now," I explained bluntly. "Remember when you fought with Dad and thrust the divorce papers at him? Well, Dad kept those papers for any future eventuality. Before he passed, he used them to officially divorce you, ensuring you won't get a single dollar of the inheritance." Her shock was evident as she realized her extravagant spending and reliance on the inheritance had come to naught. "Oh dear, still so extravagant with money, huh? But that's over now. You'll have to work for the rest of your life," I informed her matter-of-factly. Her response was predictable, demanding that I provide for her and secure her a new house and executive position in the company. I scoffed at her audacity. "Did you ever do anything for me? Don't conveniently bring up our parent-child relationship now. I don't think of you as my mother anymore. Our bond is severed. So please live your life however you like." With that, I cut off contact, setting her number to reject calls, and informing the company reception to report her if she showed up. Meanwhile, my dedication to my work at my father's company remained unwavering. I focused on protecting his legacy and fostering innovation, determined to lead the company to new heights. While my mother spiraled into debt, forced to work part-time jobs to pay off her bills, I found fulfillment in my work. Challenging as it was, I thrived on the opportunity to implement new ideas and strategies, different from my father's, while keeping my curiosity alive. Moving forward, I aim to dedicate myself even further to my work, striving to become a respected business leader and continue the legacy my father had entrusted to me.